behind the language of reform, organized groups were working to turn students' demand into violent political instrument. In 2018, responding to student demands, we abolished the quota system. In 2024, when the High Court annulled the decision, the government appealed because we wanted to uphold the abolition. I personally took the initiative for dialogue with the students and invited them to Ganabhavan, the Prime Minister's residence. Three ministers also held discussions with them. A quota reform movement was turned into a one-point demand for my resignation. False propaganda was spread in a planned way. Genuine students were emotionally manipulated, while organized groups used their movement as cover for and violence and regime change. Muhammad Yunus himself said this was a meticulously designed movement led by a mastermind. His own words exposed the truth. It was not simply a spontaneous student protest. There was no visible or responsible leadership. Instructions were given invisibly. It was organized, directed, and used to create a path to power outside the ballot box. From July 15th, the character of the movement changed. Killings, arson, attacks, and looting began. State property was destroyed. Bangladesh television was attacked and set on fire. So was different buildings like Shetu Bhavan, the Directorate General of Health Services, the EPI vaccination program building, Farmgate Metro Rail Station, flyover, Mohakali Elevator Expressway, science research facilities, the Disaster Management Office, a national database center, a COVID-19 special hospital, Bangladesh Medical University, residential hotels, industrial facilities, businesses, prisons, and including Noshingdi and other district jails were attacked, vandalized, or burned. All the terrorists, criminals were released. Awami League offices were vandalized across the country. Leaders and workers were attacked and killed. Homes of ministers and senior figures associated with my government were looted and burned. The media was also targeted. Nearly 50 media center, private television stations, and newspaper offices were attacked or set on fire. Journalists were killed. Law enforcement agencies came under organized attack. Police, sepai, the other officers were killed and their bodies were hung from flyover. Around 460 police stations were outposted or set on fire, and in some, personnel were trapped inside buildings and burnt alive. Weapons were looted. Officers were beaten to death. According to persecuted police members, at least 3,000 personnel were killed, attacked, tortured, or subjected to serious violence. So, I ask a simple question. In such a situation, what is the duty of law enforcement? When police stations are burned, government buildings are attacked, public infrastructure is destroyed, officers are killed, and weapons are looted, does the state have no duty to protect life and property? In every country, law enforcement has a responsibility to protect citizens, state institutions, and their own lives. This is not a crime. That is the duty entrusted to them by law. At the same time, I wanted the truth to be known. That is why I formed a Judicial Inquiry Commission on 18th July 2024. Its purpose was clear. Every casualty had to be investigated. Every incident of violence had to be examined, and every family deserved to know the truth. I met victims' families, visited the injured, and instructed the authorities to provide the highest level of medical treatment free of cost. On 1st August, I strengthened the inquiry into a three-member commission so that the investigation would be credible and comprehensive. But after seizing power, the illegal interim government led by Muhammad Yunus stopped the investigation. They did not allow the truth to come out. They gave indemnity to those who involved in the killings. If they truly wanted justice, why did they stop the inquiry? If they had nothing to hide, why protect the killers? That one decision tells the truth. They did not want justice, they wanted power. They did not want investigation, they wanted the evidences buried. Their own words export the truth. An NCP leader said revolution would not have succeeded if police had not been killed and the metro rail had not been set on fire. A BNP leader in Sirazganj also said publicly that Enayatpur police station was burned and police were killed to make the revolution succeed. These statements show that the July-August movement was not merely a quota reform movement. It became a coordinated assault on constitutional order driven by hidden instruction, organized violence, and propaganda. The conspiracy did not end on 5th August. After 5th August, violence became a campaign of political persecution. The killing that began on 16 July with the murder of Shobuz Ali, a Dhaka college student and student league activist, has not stopped. Awami League leaders and workers are being killed, disappeared, arrested, driven from their homes, and buried under false cases. At least 10,000 have been killed or disappeared. Around 650,000 have been arrested over the last 2 years. Around 3,500 cases have been filed. Namely, nearly 450,000 leaders, workers, and supporters are accused. More than 1 million others have been listed as unnamed accused. Against me, more than 600 cases has been filed. Women activists of Chhatro League, student organization, youth league, other affiliated organizations are facing abuse, humiliation, torture in custody. Many leaders and workers have also died in prison amid documented accounts of torture, denial of medical treatment, deprivation of food, negligence, and denial of basic rights. The persecution is not limited to the Awami League members of only. The member of minority community, judges, lawyers, intellectuals, cultural figures, journalists, professionals, workers, even rickshaw pullers, farmers, ordinary citizens have been attacked, arrested, or accused in murder cases. No one who stands for the spirit of the liberation war is safe. Symbols and memorials of our liberation war have been destroyed. Freedom fighters have been humiliated with garland of shoes. The historic residence of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the Bangabandhu Memorial Museum at Dhanmondi 32 has been attacked and demolished in phases. This is not random violence. This is an attempt to erase the spirit of the liberation war from Bangladesh. Muhammad Yunus himself spoke of pressing a reset button to whip away the country's previous history. They want to erase the liberation war, they want to erase Bangabandhu, they want to rewrite Bangladesh against the foundation on which it was born. Convicted war criminals have been released, militants and top terrorists have been freed. Even after a state election brought the BNP to power, the situation did not change. Bangladesh remains a grip of fear, terror, repression, economic hardship, and deep insecurity. Now, look at the condition of the country. The progress we built has been destroyed, and ordinary people are paying the price. GDP growth has fallen to 2.22% compared with 6.80% during the Awami League government. Industrial production has fallen sharply. For the first time in 54 years, the industrial sector has faced negative growth. Defaulted loan in the banking sector have reportedly risen from 13% to 47%. Poverty has increased from 18.60% to 46.8%. Investment has turned negative. Job creation has collapsed. More than 2 crore people have newly fallen into unemployment. Over 500 industrial factories have closed. More than half of industrialists and business owners are either in prison or forced into hiding. The government is running by borrowing 700 to 900 crore taka from banks every day. Project costs have been increased by 50% to 250%. At the same time, militancy is rising. Women and children are facing torture, rape, humiliation. And ordinary people no longer feel secure in their own lives. Extortion, murder, kidnapping have become regular features of daily life. These are not just numbers or isolated incidents. Behind them, there is a family, a worker, a farmer, a small business owner, a mother who cannot buy food for her children, and a young person who no longer see hope. But let me also remind you what Bangladesh had achieved. The welfare of the people has always been the purpose of my deep politics. My father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, gave his life for the ideal, and I have carried the ideal with full commitment. During my 5 terms as a Prime Minister, we used long term planning, sound financial management, disciplined implementation to place Bangladesh on a strong foundation. After 2008, across 16 years and 4 consecutive terms, we implemented major projects such as Padma Bridge, Metro Rail, Rupur Nuclear Power Plant, Matarbari Deep Sea Port, Kandapuli Tunnel, Bangabandhu Satellite. We maintained GDP growth between 6.5% to 7.5%. Our development projects were not vanity projects. They were part of building national capacity. Our social programs were not charity. They were investments in human dignity. We made Bangladesh stand tall. We made it known as the rising tiger of Asia. Bangladesh's crisis is not only a domestic crisis, it affects regional peace, security, trade, development, and human dignity. That is why I call upon the international community and all the friends of Bangladesh to stand with the people of Bangladesh in their struggle for democracy, justice, and peace. A stable Bangladesh matters for South Asia, for the Bay of Bengal, for development partners, and for all countries that believe in democracy, rule of law, and justice. The next decade can be a decade of recovery and renewal, but only if democracy is restored and the people are allowed to decide their own future. That is why I make these demands clearly. The ban on the Awami League must be lifted, political prisoners must be released, false cases must be dropped, freedom of speech must be restored, media freedom must be protected, judicial independence must be guaranteed. Law enforcement agencies must serve the people, not those who use power for revenge. These are not demands for one party only. There is necessary steps to save Bangladesh. Whatever fate awaits me, I will return to my people. I cannot stay away while my beloved countrymen are suffering. I know I may be detained, I may be sent to prison, they may try to enforce verdicts issued in fabricated cases, but fear cannot decide my duty to the people. My life moved beyond calculations of personal safety long ago. In 1971, I was in imprisonment with my mother. My son, Joy, was born in captivity. In 1975, I lost my family. I spent 6 years in exile. After returning home, I fought against military ruler, dictatorship, and political conspiracies. There were 19 assassination attempts against me. Even the grenade attack of 21st August 2004 could not stop me. Therefore, I am not worried about my own future. I am worried about the future of Bangladesh. I want to return because the people deserve security, development, prosperity, and peace. They deserve a state that protects them, an economy that gives them opportunity, and a democracy that gives them rights. My return and the return of the Awami League to the democratic process is not about power. It is about putting Bangladesh back to the right track. It is about reviving the country's path of development, progress, secularism, stability. I want to return to Bangladesh to one purpose, to stand beside the people and help improve their lives. The people are the source of all power. I believe in them, I trust them, I love them, and I will return to them. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu. Thank you very much for listening me and giving me so much time. Thank you.
A very heartwarming speech by Sheikh Hasina, a big program that has been organized in Delhi. Now, the program was organized privately. The government has nothing to do with it. But the fact is that Sheikh Hasina is in India, and Bangladesh has been saying that the Sheikh Hasina must be called. But the greater implication, for the first time, Sheikh Hasina has said that this was not an uprising. This was a coup. And let me tell you that when we use the word Gen Z, revolution, Sheikh Hasina, for the first time on record, has said it's a coup. There are people in my panelists who have been saying that, well, we should not be using the word uprising. For example, Rami Niranjan Desai of India Foundation, she joins me, author, distinguished fellow. Salauddin Shoaib Chaudhary, editor, BITS, Bangladesh, he also joins me. I'll be also joined by Swaz Chakma, Director, Risk and Analysis Group, subsequently Raja Karthikeyan, Takshashila Institute, and other as well. Thank you. But let me straight away go to Rami. Rami, I think she has made one point very, very clear. She says that this was not an uprising. There were forces behind these forces who were behind her ouster.
Good evening, Karthikeyan. I hope you can hear me. Karthikeyan, absolutely really determined speech she's given. She's resolute. She wants to go back, and she wants to go back because she thinks that she's been wronged. She believes so, and that's what she made very clear in her speech today, wherein she quoted Yunus. She quoted the fact that, he said there was a strategic mastermind behind this. There are people like me and many others on your panel who also concluded this during the time of the so-called protests. She also said that, there's an underlying agenda of wanting to reset Bangladesh's history. These are some really, really important points that other people have been speculating, but she came out and said this today. And I think that's really consequential, not just to Bangladesh and the future of Bangladesh, but also to the entire neighborhood and regional stability. Because here she is, without any fear, pointing fingers at a hand that has made it possible, like she said, for another corridor to be created towards power through these protests. I think she is frankly feeling that she's wronged, and, she's been in Delhi now for 2 years nearly. And I think she's going to give it her all and possibly, go back irrespective of the repercussions. And I think that is also something that she must have calculated, because it's not going to be so easy for any government there to take somebody as formidable as her to task, if I may say so, and not, I don't mean to say this too early, but I think this is a little bit of a power move by her, making her intentions clear. Let's see what, is in the future, Karthikeyan, but I really do think this is a bit of a indication of what's to come, and there's lots to come in the future.
Okay, let me straight away go to Dhaka. I'm joined by Shoaib. Shoaib, thank you so much for joining me. Wajib also said before Sheikh Hasina spoke that we will not allow Bangladesh to become another Pakistan. I think that's the word Wajib used. Now, well, easier said than done. Whenever she comes, whether it's August, September, October, December, what has happened today in Bangladesh is for everyone to see. The diktats have been issued for, you are not going to show, telecast, broadcast the speech of Sheikh Hasina. I don't think the second homecoming is going to be a cakewalk for her, and also age is also not on her side. This is not 1970s and 80s.
Thank you very much. In my opinion, the current government in Dhaka, they are behaving like ostrich. They are burying their head into the sand and thinking the world is not seeing anything. But today, what they have done from yesterday, by almost warning the local media not to cover Sheikh Hasina, actually they made it more prominent. And we need to remember that Yunus and the plotters are the plotters of the 2024 coup. Their agenda was to turn Bangladesh into a terrorist nation like Pakistan. And that was exactly their agenda. And under the constitution of Bangladesh, such attempt will have a death penalty. So today or tomorrow, or maybe after 1 or 2 years, Yunus and his collaborators all will face death penalty because they have betrayed with Bangladesh, they have betrayed with the nation, and they have attempted to destroy my country. And as I have also told you many a times, that people, 180 million people of Bangladesh, they are not with the collaborators of Pakistan. They are not with the conspirators. We want a peaceful Bangladesh. We want a prosperous Bangladesh. And for that reason, as a journalist, as an editor, I'm looking forward that one day, very soon, I will see Yunus and his cronies hanging somewhere in Bangladesh.
Okay. Suhas, your opening comments? Raja Karthikeyan also joins me. Suhas.
I think, when I watched this program, I saw at some point of time over 200,000 people were watching it. So in a way, it shows, the massive interest of the people of Bangladesh. Because the majority who we are watching, they had to be from Bangladesh, irrespective of whether you are from Awami League or some of the, goons from the opposite parties who are in power, abusing her, etc. So I think that in a way shows the kind of public interest for her return. I think it's going to be very difficult because it's not, as you said, going to be cakewalk. I think the only positive thing on her side is the whole justice process. She has been sentenced to that by the War Crimes Tribunal of Bangladesh. But that's the final judgment. It has to be something to be challenged before the Supreme Court. So when she goes back, when she is arrested, only at that point of time, she would be formally given the copy of the verdict, then she can file an appeal. So as far as her executions, that threats, they are going to blow away, because if you read the judgment itself, they have relied on evidence which cannot actually stand judicial scrutiny. They are like more hearsay than anything, at least with respect to the cases which you have decided. But at the same point of time, I think we have to bear in mind the very nature of the politics in Bangladesh. Because we have seen that, the BNP and the Awami League, they have never been able to come or play politics where they allow each other. So when the BNP comes to power, they try to block Awami League. When the Awami League comes to power, they try to block the Awami League. So BNP government knows that return of Hasina would actually, in a way, create the same political atmosphere, which is very competitive politics, violence in the streets. And it also means for Bangladesh that this is not the country which can be governed. Because when you have an active opposition, you could not govern. So that's why whenever each party gets power, they always try to ensure the other party doesn't come up. So as I was saying, this is an opportunity lost, opportunity missed. And I think the very banning of the Awami League is absolutely illegal. You cannot ban a political party. You can try possibly those who are accused for their individual crimes. But when you ban a political party, you are basically trying to establish one party rule. And I think the best person to challenge that is Hasina herself, because if Hasina doesn't go back, I think Awami League cannot fight back. And I do not believe that the Tariq Jia government has the audacity to execute, someone like Sheikh Hasina. Bangladesh is not Pakistan. It's only one country where military doesn't have full control. It's a country where ruling BNP doesn't have full control. So that's what has happened in Pakistan is not going to happen in Bangladesh, because Bangladesh is absolutely different. But I think we are going to see very interesting times in Bangladesh. The last point is that Bangladesh is not a country. If I am an investor, if I'm a big multinational company, I'll be investing in Bangladesh, because I could see in the next 4 years running up to the next elections that this country is going to be very unstable. So all the IMF, Standard Poor or, World Bank, all their, predictions can go to, can fly out kind of a thing.
Okay. Raja Karthikeyan is also with me. Your opening comments, sir, and then I'll get into some specific issues.
I'm sorry, I don't hear the question. Could you repeat?
I'm saying your opening comments, sir, then I'll ask specific questions. Your opening comments on Sheikh Hasina's speech, which she gave. And Wajib had joined them from, I think, London.
Sure. Thank you, Karthikeya. I believe that this was a very significant speech. Bangladesh is in the throes of a very turbulent time right now. And I think the Tariq Rahman government was watching the speech with a lot of caution. Because right now, Bangladesh doesn't really have a credible opposition. You have Jamaat al-Islami, and you saw the Jamaat Islami chief already saying that the country should prepare for another revolution. And on the streets across 3 campuses, you saw that the BNP's Students' Union has clashed with the Islamic Chhatr Shibir, the students' wing of Jamaat Islami. These are not good signs. In fact, ANP would be a much better opposition for BNP in Bangladesh. It would be far more reassuring for India as well to see the Awami National League to be the opposition. Certainly, there will need to be a truth and reconciliation process to have accountability. But to completely shut the Awami League out of national politics, I don't think this is going to bring peace back to Bangladesh. Now, as far as Sheikh Hasina's comments about Bangladesh being a Pakistan on the east side of India, I think it's a bit of playing to Indian fears so that India, puts its might behind her. I don't think we're seeing anywhere close to that of foreign intelligence agencies or making Bangladesh their safe haven. That's not necessarily the case. But certainly it is in Bangladesh's interest to have better relations with India. And the road to that would start with some kind of a reconciliation between the BNP and the Awami League.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now, I have another question. Rami, every political party has a succession plan. If you look at what happened with BNP, Khaleda Zia was not well. During the entire coup that was being organized from Washington and Bangladesh, and Tariq Rahman occupied that, I would say, vacuum, He came, his party, he was able to occupy that vacuum. Now, that sort of line of leadership is not in conversation, at least in public narrative, when it comes to Awami League. I'm not aware. That's number one, which I see as a commentator from Delhi. The second thing is everything is incumbent on Sheikh Hasina, and there are chances that Bangladesh can go the Myanmar way. You have your great expertise in the structure of the Myanmari state. So, does Bangladesh, stands the chance of falling into that Myanmari state of affairs where political activism, political voice becomes too weak in front of the state structures?
Karthikeya, that's a really good question. I think the line of succession is something that everybody's wondered and it's been unclear. Let me point out that Sheikh Hasina's speech today pointed to some of the things that are trigger points for not just India, but for people in the country, as well as messaging to her Awami League cadre. She pointed out that there was persecution, that the GDP has fallen, that it's not the kind of success story as it was under her, that terrorists have been released, so on and so forth. Now, I think these are very realistic issues, keeping aside the line of succession, because like you said yourself, that is not clear. I think that may come in time. There are parallels being drawn, as you did, to Myanmar. I don't think that in Bangladesh the case could ever be as it is in Myanmar, because remember, in Myanmar the military has 25% of seats in the parliament. Therefore they are a part of the whole electoral process, and dissent can be curbed very easily, to the extent that Naypyidaw was built just so that dissenters can't reach the capital. So I don't think that's ever going to happen in Bangladesh. But what's going to happen in Bangladesh if situation remains the same? And Sheikh Hasina Hasina said it herself, that under Tariq things are still miserable, that there is persecution, that, the economy hasn't changed, that there's instability. If situation is as grave as she's saying and as some are speculating, and it continues this way, I think the rise of radicalization is bound to increase. While, some might say, as my previous panelist did, that it's an overstatement that Bangladesh, we will not allow Bangladesh to become another Pakistan. That's what Hassan said, I believe. While some may see that as an overstatement, the fact remains that some of the laws that were enacted during Yunus's time, including I don't know if you can hear me still.
I think we can hear you. I think the lights have gone, but not the voice.
Yeah, it's come back. As you know, I'm traveling. But, as Yunus's time, as the customs being, no customs checking of any of the goods that were coming from Pakistan, or the release of militants and terrorists, these are all really important markers that these have not been overturned after Tariq has come in. So I think the rise of radicalization, extremism might be an issue. Also, this sort of, I think, a realization to certain groups that Tariq is not everything that he was going to be, is going to make them more, I suppose, a little bit more activated against the ruling party of the time. So this sort of instability is bad enough for the region and bad enough for Bangladesh. I think Sheikh Hasina has really sent a message to each targeted group that she's wanted to, whether it's Awami League people, whether it's India, whether it's foreign vested interests. And I think what's really the question here is why now? Where is she getting the confidence from? What is the assurance that she has if she does? And why after 2 years? I think that's the real question here.
Okay. But, Shoaib, there are very few countries, I don't even recall, if any country which has been Islamized in a very radical way has been de-radicalized. If you take the examples of Afghanistan, if you take the example of Pakistan, if you take the example of Maldives, you take any other example of even of Iran or even of Saudi Arabia post 1979, in which a lot of militants had occupied the holy town of Mecca, where French special forces had to operate. It's all part of history. The de-radicalization had not taken place. The only way, I think, in historically, only totalitarian states that have been dismantled were either secular dictatorships like Chile or the totalitarian systems run under the communist regime. Anything which was running under the religious line, I don't find that those countries have been able to de-radicalize themselves. And I think that is that's the harm place which Bangladesh stands today. I mean to say, if they stand for another 10 years, what happens to the new generation? Look at what has happened in Pakistan. Today, we have to do business with Taliban in Afghanistan. Karzai remains in that same palace. That's the truth of the matter. He stays in the same palace. I don't know as a journalist where Ghani is, but we are doing business with Taliban because we know that they have changed the entire apparatus there. So my question is that to say that, Bangladesh political superstructure can come back to normal, but if the social infrastructure changes in terms of thought, ideology, and the outlook, then sure.
Katikaji, you see, the Yunus regime, actually the 2024 coup, it has terribly destroyed the younger generation of this country. And we are witnessing the alarming rise of militancy. I would like to humbly bring a matter to the attention of your attention and the attention of my esteemed co-panelists. You see, United States, the U.S. State Department, it announced $5 million bounty on Sayyid Ziaul Haq, who is the kingpin of Ansar al-Islam and franchisee of Al-Qaeda. And this man, the Yunus regime, it began the process of relieving him from all legal charges, including death penalty. And now this PNP government, They are advancing the same agenda, and I am told that in a month he will be cleared of all legal complications. What does it mean? They are facilitating, they are patronizing branded terrorists, the terrorist who faces $5 million bounty announced by the US State Department. So Bangladesh is witnessing a very gruesome rise of this jihadism and militancy. On the other hand, I would like to bring another point to the attention of everyone that as Sheikh Hasina has announced about returning to Bangladesh, if there is an attempt of assassinating her, or if even she is assassinated, I think the country will witness a bloody civil war because Awami League has a supporter base of 60 million people. So for the sake of the peace of Bangladesh, an inclusive political atmosphere is urgently necessary. Otherwise, I would like to humbly say that my country, of course, we are witnessing the rise of Islamist forces and religious extremism since 2024 August, and it is increasing every day. We were expecting that BNP being a elected political party, democratically elected, they will at least do something to fight this terrorism and extremism. But we are seeing that they are behaving as if it is the continuation of the Yunus regime, which is very dangerous for Bangladesh.
Okay. Suhas, do you think that Bangladesh has enough institutional commitment to restore a democratic process? Because it is incumbent on the fact that someone should say that I'm the goalkeeper. Someone should say it's not my job to run the country. Someone should say it's the job of the politicians to run the country. Okay, I've done my job. I'll give security. I'll organize elections. I'll take care of minorities and, Chakma autonomous areas. I'll take care of the trade. You guys take care of the free and fair election. Do you think that sort of a system exists? Those robust institutions, I'm not going to use the word robust, but those institutions, do they still exist?
Absolutely not. Bangladesh never had any institutions which could stand to any government of the day. My fear is, I think Hasina is returning on the promise, or to some extent, of the Americans. The problem is the Americans have been very devious in this. Prior to the election in 2024, the Americans were saying something in New Delhi, and once they go to Dhaka, they were saying something else. So we have in this picture Sergio Gore. So whatever the promises which are being made or being guaranteed.
So this is so funny. Dard bhi denge aur dawa bhi denge.
Being placed at this point of time need not fructify or need not be kept by the Americans when she actually goes back. And what we have to keep in mind, that those who know Bangladesh, is that, as I said, they do not accept each other. So they never accepted, the Awami League or the BNP. And added to that is the history of the subcontinent, the divisions between Hindus and the Muslims. And Hasina being seen as very close to or as an asset of India is an advantage, is also equally disadvantage. And we have to bear in mind that there is still a huge amount of outrage against her, despite the situation on the ground not being in favor of the government of the day, because the economy is not functioning. Nothing is functioning in that country. No rule of law, nothing whatsoever. So what are you going to see? We are possibly going to see massive violence by the Islamists. And each and every one have been released. And if you look at the data which was published by the anti-terrorism unit of the Bangladesh police, about 311 people who wanted in Al-Qaeda related cases, including those who were responsible for a holy artisan attack, they were released. They're roaming around freely. You don't tell me that you can't find them in Bangladesh. So Bangladesh has been radicalized to such an extent that if the Awami League returns, then they will retaliate, because Also, there is a history of the hanging of the Jamaat-e-Islami leaders, those who had collaborated with Pakistan, opposed, independence of Bangladesh, the Rajakars. So they are vying for her blood. And BNP, including Tariq Jia, knows that if democratic space is allowed, they are of the opinion that they can't run the country, because Bangladesh was never run properly when there is an opposition functioning, because you always have hartals and hartals and hartals. So in that kind of a situation, what we are going to find, and I believe that if she returns, if the Americans don't keep the promise, we are going to see a civil war and collapse of Bangladesh. Not necessarily the way we have seen in Myanmar, but the possibility of Bangladesh not being able to be governed remains very high, and it becomes more critical because the Bangladesh army is still divided. So it will all remain when she goes back, what kind of role Bangladesh army plays, whether Waqaruzzaman will remain as the chief or he will be removed after the presidential elections. So there are lots of ifs and buts in the next, 5 months up to December. So I would believe that, what I see is that Bangladesh is going to face massive violence, and that could destabilize the entire country. So this is not going to be cakewalk, because the Tariq Jia government knows if there is an election, even if Awami League was allowed on 12 February elections, Awami League would have at least won 30% of the seat. Jamaat-e-Islami would have never got beyond 20 seats. So both the Jamaat-e-Islami, BNP know that if the Awami League comes, if they cannot perform, they are going to evaporate. So they basically want to rule the country for another 10 years minimum. And by the time the nature and structure of the country will change. And that's the risk. And the risk is if Hasina doesn't go back, there is no one to go back, because Hasina is still alive. Hasina is still very much active in politics. Still she is there. You can have a succession plan. And if you look at the BNP, it's in the succession plan of the BNP. He went for treatment after being subjected to torture during the previous interim government between 2007 and 2008. And he was picked up. Tariq Jia was picked up by the MI6 from Malaysia and fed by the ISI and the MI6 and the CIA. So it's basically CIA's government versus Hasina. So now we are trying to reach an agreement between the Americans and the Indians on return of Hasina. And my fear is that Americans cannot be trusted on this.
Okay. Mr. Karthikeyan, my question is that yes, Americans are definitely involved. But, there is a saying, if you want to crack a financial case, you follow the money. In politics, in national security, if you want to crack it, you see what happens on the ground. The rise of the Chinese personnel have dramatically gone up. The Chinese infrastructure companies are working 23 kilometers from the Chicken's Neck, from the Bangladesh border, in garb of making small bridges. Chinese non-military presence, and when I say non-military, those are civilian companies staffed with PLA, they have dramatically gone up. There's a dramatic exchange of intelligence personnel between Pakistan and Bangladesh. All those old, I would say, checks and balances have been done away with. So everything that has happened in Bangladesh is directly opposed to India's interests, and I have no qualm in saying that. It's opposed to India's national security. So how does that get corrected?
Bangladesh, like any other sovereign country, will have its interests. The question is whether Bangladesh pursues its interest at the expense of its single largest neighbor, with which it shares effectively almost 80% of its border. So it would be quite foolhardy for Bangladesh to provoke India. I think it's on the economic front, indeed, there are going to be closer ties with China. There is even this revival of this idea of an economic cooperation with Malaysia, Indonesia. It's called SESU. So there is certainly some these efforts going on. There are discussions about building a road into Myanmar, and which will go thereafter into China. So Bangladesh economy needs all the support that it can get. It would be quite foolhardy for Bangladesh as a new government to harbor anti-Indian forces. This was which the Sheikh Hasina government, when they pushed out all of the, if you remember, the Ulfa groups, northeastern separatist groups from India that were sheltering in Bangladesh between 2015 and 2020, almost most of those groups were moved from Bangladesh territory, and that enabled a pretty historic movement in terms of Bangladesh-India friendship. And I think it would be really bizarre if the new government decides to turn its back, turn all that progress back, and once again shelter anti-Indian groups. There will be those who will say, who will make false promises, perhaps in the short term, and it's really concerning. You know, when we saw those mercenaries that were caught on the Bangladesh-Myanmar border in northeast India, and there are a lot of people, very suspicious people, who are working in the Myanmar civil war, who want to use Bangladesh soil for this purpose, and some of whom seem to also be striking deals with the northeastern separatist groups. So it is in the interest of Bangladesh that these fly-by-night operators, do not imperil the very fragile relationship between India and Bangladesh, particularly at this point in time. I don't think Bangladesh wants any more problems than it has currently. So I hope the government does not.
Raja, you are giving agency to Bangladesh. Well, I respect your point of view. I respect your point of view. You are giving an agency to the people of Bangladesh. I mean, when the coup has happened, the people don't have an agency. Rami, I want to bring your ground experience in.
Yes, I mean, there is a government. There is certainly there are. For example, there is. Now, the fact is that there is a popularly elected government. There's nobody is disputing the elections. I think there is an issue that Awami League did not get a chance to participate in the elections. There is an issue that there's a constitutional review process that's going on now, which the opposition, Jamaat Islami, is boycotting. So these are certainly, there are internal issues. But when it comes to the foreign policy front, I think we appointed a new ambassador who has submitted his credentials to Bangladesh, current leadership. So I don't think it's a question of India is delegitimizing India's current leadership in any manner. And therefore, okay, I think the Bangladesh new leadership has to work with India, and it can't say that because India is harboring Sheikh Hasina, we're going to become a safe haven for anti-Indian forces. That is not going to be in Bangladesh's interests.
Okay. It's not a South Asia. Rami is unknown to political violence, whether it's Afghanistan, whether it's Pakistan. It's like assassinating leaders. Those are very well documented. What has happened in Pakistan when Benazir Bhutto, wanted to go back. Afghanistan, his history is replete with political assassinations. I can't waste our time on that. And Sri Lanka, again, a lot of political violences, targeting of leadership. My question is simple in retrospect, and this is a question to all of you. Rami, the coup delivered a new government, new set of people. Coup changed a lot of things for us. You break it down. People should know what has the coup changed. We say in good spirit, Tariq Rahman will have to learn to deal with India. Obviously, he will have to learn to deal with India because we are the biggest neighbor. But the coup has changed certain things. What has that changed? I think people should understand that in retrospect कि पिछले 25 महीनों में कुछ तो बदला है.
Karthikeya, you're right. It's changed a lot of things, but I think what we have to separate is the economy and the security part of it. Sure, Tariq can't ignore India. India is its neighbor. Geographies cannot be changed. While we understand that, The fact is that long-standing traditions have been changed. You know, it was only recently where civil servants, when they used to come to India to train, are now being sent to Pakistan. You know, what does that tell us about the kind of bureaucracy that's going to come out in the next couple of years? The military to military relationships have increased. Like I said, cargo coming from Pakistan is exempt from customs checking. You know, what does this mean? Why should we trust what is happening, what is coming, and what sort of trust is this for this to happen? And then the Tariq government to come and not change this. We saw the kind of maps that were floated. We saw Ansar Alu Bangla team leader Rahmani saying, really provocative things. What was the repercussion of that? Nothing, we talk about obviously Ulfa, but even other insurgent groups like NLFT that functioned in Tripura, one of the major reasons for disbanding that insurgent group was Sheikh Hasina taking strict action against Bangladesh soil being used against for terrorist activity. And the same people who were caught under terrorist activities, taking weapons to Tripura, were the same people who were released. Now, nothing has changed. That is what, the moot point is, that Tariq has not, re-looked at these changes that the Yunus-led interim government had made. On the contrary, provocation still continues, and there is a deficit of trust. This is by no means an easy relationship, and when the water treaties come up, I think that will be on display, that by no means this is as comfortable a relationship as it was with Sheikh Hasina. There was a certain trust that not just Sheikh Hasina and her government and the Indian government had, but also by that channel, the people of India and the people of Bangladesh had. However, I think times to come are going to be very interesting, like all of us have agreed on your panel. It depends how Sheikh Hasina decides to play her cards. It's not going to be that easy. There's going to be processes that have to be followed, because the international world is going to be watching very closely. And I think, unfortunately for Bangladesh, or in some strange way, fortunately for Bangladesh, any sort of international vested interest in Bangladesh has realized that this is not the government that maybe we thought it would be. Maybe, it is playing up to other countries that we wouldn't have expected it to. Maybe they are not in our control. Maybe it's not that easy to control, even the radical forces in Bangladesh, whether it's Jamaat or other or Islamic Chhatra Shibir, maybe that realization has dawned, and there is some sort of need to balance, and therefore the timing of this speech. Well, whatever happens, Kartike, I think, like I said before, it's going to be very important for us to take everything with a pinch of salt, because anything can go anyway. And this year will tell us if she's sure that she wants to go back this year. This year will tell us what it means, not just for her, but for the region itself.
Okay, Mr. Chaudhary, what has changed? And whenever the protest acquires a religious idiom, it's very difficult to change. And Iranian Revolution is one example in case.
You see, Kartika ji, as I have mentioned, that since the 2024 coup, everything went out of order in Bangladesh. Even today, when the government organized some programs, the government, BNP government, there was such a chaos in the program that all the diplomats had to almost visibly flee the spot. They had to flee because there was a hue and cry. I'm sure Suhas Dada is aware of that. So Yunus has turned the nation into a nation of chaos. And he has only told the youngsters to demonstrate and protest and destroy. This is what Yunus has taught the people. And unfortunately, the BNP is continuing what Yunus did. Now, I absolutely agree with my esteemed co-panelists that it is not very easy for Sheikh Hasina that returning to Bangladesh because today when we we saw the press conference, I mean, I was personally, as a journalist, I was absolutely broken heart, because to me it has no impact at all. They just played a recorded message of Sheikh Hasina. She did not actually appear to the journalist, even on audio call. So, and they just use the name of Sheikh Hasina as if to get a media coverage. That is my personal opinion. So, if Sheikh Hasina really believes that she wants to return to Bangladesh, I'm repeating, if she really believes, she has to come to the media, either with the video appearance or audio appearance, because you and I, but both, we understand what happened today. It was no press appearance. It was just they played a recorded message of Sheikh Hasina, and it shows that Awami League is not prepared to return, and it shows that Sheikh Hasina is confused about her return. And actually, this press conference of Awami League today will have cause more damage to the party than it would achieve anything, because its supporters in Bangladesh who are facing agonies and ordeals for the last 2 years, they will be shocked that their leader even did not appear in the press conference, because
No, I kind of agree with it, but Sheikh Hasina cannot be blamed, because you need the permission of the host country to do these things. These are the niceties not to be discussed on a TV channel. But one understand that I don't think she would have liked to cross the line of a host that has taken a position in an international arena for her. But yes, I do agree with you. Agar wo wahan pahunchti, and if she would have done a press conference and taken perhaps not taken a question, but done a press conference, suo moto, and went away, it would have been treated very differently. The projection in terms of TV, digital would have been very different. Suhas?
I think, she had to play by the rule book. The government of India is trying to, maintain the relationship between BNP as well as the Awami League, and you have to ensure, that basic things run. And hopefully, if Farija comes to the point and agrees that, there should be multi-party democracy in Bangladesh, then of course it would be a better way to resolve it, because at this point of time there is no multi-party democracy. The BNP and Jamaat-e-Islami are two sides of the same coin. So we cannot even say Jamaat-e-Islami is the opposition. It's a friendly party. They are not the opposition. I think, coming to the original question, what has changed is everything has changed for at least Bangladesh and India, because you never had the country where one mainstream political party has been banned. And for India, because they had put all the baskets on the Awami League, and once she was, thrown out of the country, then they find themselves in a very difficult situation trying to come back. And I think in this situation, what is critical for us to remember is that Bangladesh needs money, because otherwise the country cannot deliver, cannot run, So they are looking for money from everywhere, and the only people who are with money at this point of time are the Chinese. But
Yes.
Tariq J will possibly not realize what has happened to Sri Lanka, that the country went completely bankrupt. But here I just want to mention the last point. The critical point is the banning of the Awami League. The banning of the Awami League by Yunus was not done by Yunus himself. There was a decision to ban Awami League so that they cannot participate in the election and the country can be ruled by the BNP. So who has allowed it? Obviously, it was the same masters, whether it's the Clinton Foundation's State Department or the CIA.
Okay.
So they basically wanted to make sure that the Awami League remains out of power. And it is in this context which we have to remember is that there has been some kind of an agreement between the Chinese.
Suhas, I really have to close the show. I've really run short of time. Rami, thank you. I disturbed you on, on
Not
something.
at all. Not at all.
I disturbed you. You are not in Delhi, not on official work outside, but you still made time. Mr. Karthikeyan, thank you so much, for making time for me. And Shoaib, stay safe there. And Suhas, thank you so much for always being there on these shows. And this is all I had on point tonight. And the show will be repeated to all my viewers, where we'll be playing the larger bites of other gentlemen who were on the stage, which we couldn't because we wanted to debate what Sheikh Hasina has said. So thank you and good night.
Dear bestie, how can I thank you? They say the truest friendships cannot be manufactured. They simply unfold naturally. How true that is for us, bestie. Love from Bestie Collection. Natural diamond bracelets for you and your bestie.
We need to get the house painted.
Very good. Go ahead.
But painting is more expensive now, so your massage chair is cancelled.
Beta, bhi naya zamana. Birla Opus is giving 10% free paint. So now paint worry free.
10% free paint only with Birla Opus.
The fallout from the deadly ambush on the church leaders in Manipur is now rapidly escalating across the hill district.
Unfortunately, the government has not taken appropriate action still.
Commitment to the stories that come out from Northeast, and we'll continue to cover them in depth and entirety.
News 9, in your interest.
A crisis that has shaken the foundation of our education system and left over 22 lakh students in a state of absolute despair.
कटोरा लेके नौजवान भीख मांगता रहे, यही चाहते हैं मोदी जी.
Mental agony, the mental stress that they will have to go through.
देखिए, इसमें सीबीआई जांच कर रही है. सीबीआई को पूरा साथ हमारी पुलिस देगी.
A single street in Belfast, sudden act of violence, and within hours, the city was pulled into chaos. What began as a stabbing has now ignited 9 across Northern Ireland.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9, English news as it should be.
Should a vehicle without an insurance be denied fuel altogether? Well, the Supreme Court has floated a proposal for a pilot project that could change the way millions of Indians drive out there on the roads. Then, is UPI, the payments gateway that we use, about to stop being free? That's a big question mark. A new government move could be paving the way for charges on high-value digital payments. We'll separate the facts from the speculation for you right here on In Your Interest. And finally, why has the government cracked down on advertisements for popular weight loss drugs? As GLP-1 medicines go viral online, social media hype and trends, where should the line be drawn between awareness and marketing? 3 stories that could affect your wallet, your commute, and your health. You're watching In Your Interest with me, Kabir Naqvi. First, the top headlines. In a first briefing to the public since her ouster, Sheikh Hasina says she has watched her beloved Bangladesh suffer over the past 2.5 years. She alleges that the 2024 unrest was a meticulously designed movement and not merely a spontaneous student protest. She also claimed that the movement was organized to create a quote-unquote path to power outside the ballot box. Another major development today. Meta chief Mark Zuckerberg apologized over child sexual abuse, deepfake content and errors in operating the platform. Apology comes just hours after Centre's ultimatum to the Meta CEO. Centre mulls special parliament session from the 16th to the 18th of August to take up delimitation and women reservation. Congress says it will consult the party leadership and other opposition parties before conveying its decision. Meanwhile, the Jharkhand government invites agitating students for talks. Students asked to nominate a 5-member delegation for formal discussions with the government. Imagine driving to your nearest petrol pump, pulling up to refill your tank and being told, sorry, no fuel, your vehicle insurance has expired. It may sound extreme today, but that is exactly the kind of road safety reform the Supreme Court now wants the government to seriously examine and take into their cognizance. In a significant order, the Apex Court has asked the Centre and the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, the IRDA, of the country to prepare a pilot project that could link fuel supply to a vehicle's valid third-party insurance. And the backdrop for all of this that happened in the Apex Court today is staggering as well. According to the figures placed before the court today, 16.54 crore vehicles on Indian roads are currently uninsured. That's nearly 56% of all the registered vehicles in our country. And the court says this is not merely an insurance problem. It is a road safety issue. Because when an uninsured vehicle is involved in an accident, let's say, the biggest sufferers are often the victims and their families, who are forced into years of litigation simply to receive compensation. And the Supreme Court has therefore proposed a technology-driven compliance model. We'll come to that in just a quick bit. Automatic number plate recognition cameras, the ANPR cameras, real-time verification through the Vahan database and handheld devices and applications for the police. We're talking about automatic e-challans over here as well.